Welcome to the MEDspiration podcast, where we discuss medical science and evidence-based tools for daily living. I'm your host, Dr. Nav Badesha, double board certified physician, and this is episode 28 with Mike Mancias.
Thank God for Mike Mancias. He worked for two guys. He works for me and LeBron James.
And we met Mike at a game, and we had already looking for a guy, and then kind of happened upon one of the very best, if not the very best.
This is my great trainer, Coaching!
My name is Mike Mancias, an athletic trainer in professional sports for over 20 years, and kind of put together this whole methodology to help athletes perform at their best.
You know, from yoga to Pilates to extensive core work and postural work, breathing techniques. From a recovery standpoint, you know, on off days, it's vital that every day he's doing something. Now we do a ton of soft tissue work, cryotherapy, infrared sauna. It's training in the steam room. It's field work. It's hydro works. It's stuff in the pool. 2012, we started integrating quick start stops, blindfolding him, doing the different hand-eye coordination with lights, and again, just a lot of eccentric work. The secrets out, we do a little trampoline work. I'm giving away all the secrets. I want to make something that everyone can do. Right. You don't have to be LeBron James or Myles Garrett, you know, to do something like this. You can be mom and dad, and you can still do it and still get a good benefit from it.
Our guest today has spent the last 2 decades developing and refining the winning blueprint for athletic excellence. He's worked with countless professional athletes, sports franchises, and the U.S. Olympics program. His methods have propelled to the rise of LeBron James, arguably the best trained athlete in the world and the gold standard for elite longevity. In his new book, Game Plan, and in today's podcast, Mike shares those secrets with the rest of us. I've broken this podcast down the same way that his book is broken down into 3 specific parts. First, focuses on physical training techniques for injury prevention, including Mike's mobility and core stabilization program. Second, everything you need to know about nutrition and what he recommends to his athletes. And third, everything you need to know about recovery. The combination of these 3 concepts brings about so many revelations in this podcast that I cannot wait to share this with every single person out there. I really did my due diligence of prying out as much information as humanly possible from Mike, and to my surprise, he shared so many things he has never shared before. So be sure to watch this on YouTube or listen to it all the way through. There's so many pots of gold sprinkled throughout this podcast that I can't wait to hear your feedback. If you guys learned something new and enjoy this, please give it a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe and give us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts. And without further ado, let the MEDspiration begin. Mike Mancias, welcome to the MEDspiration podcast.
Thank you.
I want to thank you and your team for sending me your book, just published. Congratulations on this piece of work.
Thank you so much.
I did the due diligence of reading it from the front to the back. So we'll be kind of dissecting this piece of work. Before we get started, would you please give us a brief introduction about yourself?
Well, Michael Mancias is my legal name, and you know, I've been an athletic trainer with the NBA for about 20 years now. And, you know, with several different teams. Started off in Cleveland as an intern. I was an intern athletic trainer. But before that, I went to the University of Texas Pan American in South Texas. So, you know, I'm a Rio Grande Valley boy, you know, born and raised, and nice. Went to school there. And just started my journey into the NBA through the internship route. You know, back then, it was a little before email. I think I missed email by like a year or 2. And so just cold calling. Wow. Cold calling NBA teams, NFL teams at the time that I was interested in, and finally got a break with the Houston Rockets. Keith Jones was the head athletic trainer there. He opened the door for me. He said, "Come on down and hang out with us for the weekend. Watch us shoot around. Watch what we do." And that was in 1998, and I fell in love with it. Wow. I fell in love with it, and I said, you know, this is what I want to do. I want to work with the pros, and I love basketball. I played in high school a little bit. But then I ran out of talent, and so I didn't make it to the college ranks, and so here we are. You know, here we are, interning through different teams, Milwaukee Bucks, and then finally Cleveland Cavaliers. I got hired as an intern athletic trainer my very first year, and that's when I first met Mr. James. You know, his rookie year, he just got drafted. Went back to school for 1 year to finish up my certifications. Got called up again to work summer league with the Cavaliers, and then I got hired on as the seasonal intern for the year, and then got hired on full time after that.
Did you follow LeBron to Miami and then to Los Angeles, or how did that kind of transpire?
Yeah, it was in 2010, the decision, the infamous decision.
Change everything.
It changed. It really gave athletes now. That was the first step in really empowering athletes. I feel, you're in charge of your own destiny here, and so I think he brought that to the forefront, and just really gave a voice to athletes at that particular time that they weren't really sure how to navigate different things, but I felt like that was a big turning point.
In order to dissect your mind, your philosophy, and the conception of this book, we have to start with your neurodevelopment. Some of the experts would say your neurodevelopment actually starts 100 years before you're actually born. Can you tell us more about your parents, your grandparents, and how they helped you become the man that you are today?
I could best sum it up by just 2 words, and that's hard work. We're workers. We're workers, and my great-grandparents were born in Monterrey, Mexico, and my grandparents were born here in Brownsville, Texas. That's where I was born and raised, and they were just blue-collar, hard workers. My grandfather was sort of a pseudo-engineer. Kind of the neighborhood mechanic, the neighborhood engineer. If something went wrong, our neighborhood didn't have the means to go to a fancy repair shop or go back to the manufacturer, et cetera. So they'd call my grandfather up, can you fix this up? Can you take a look at this? So I feel like I got my analytical and kind of mechanical mind that way through my father's father. And and then my mom's dad, he's into cars. He was an automotive painter and just worked for Ford Motor Company for, about almost 40 years. Almost 40 years. So he was, I feel like I was a lot closer to him. And so I got a lot of my work ethic from my mother's parents. My grandmother, same thing. She worked for the school district, for the local school district there for about the same amount, between 30 and 40 years. Just up at 4:35 in the morning. She was a cafeteria worker, so they get there before anybody else does. They basically open up the joint.
Wow.
And so prepping and just I would see her get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, and my grandfather would drive her to work. She was always afraid to drive. That's one thing. She never learned to drive, but she was just the example was there in front of me, so I had to follow that. And if you didn't follow, if you weren't a hard worker, if you weren't committed to your craft, you'd get an earful.
Yeah.
You get disciplined pretty good. So it was always about hard work and commitment to your craft, no matter what it was.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Similar story. So my parents, they're immigrants from India, and they're working class. So they didn't have a college education or anything like that. So I'm the first physician in my family on both sides, and definitely that hard worker mentality. And even, you mentioned you cold call people, and you're looking for any position to be able to get in because if you show up, you're going to make it happen, And a similar thing where I just kind of had to hustle every step of the way, but luckily it rubs off on you a little bit.
Yeah, for sure.
So tell me more about what got you into athletic training and into the sports medicine space.
Well, I think it's funny. It was my senior year in high school, and again, I was playing basketball, and I love basketball. Big Bulls fan back then, big Jordan fan. Like we all were in the '90s, and so loved basketball, like I said. But I love the science and just the body, anatomy, physiology, and how it all worked. And I have a great uncle who was a big mentor of mine, Dr. Wahado down in Brownsville. He's in Phoenix now, I believe. But he laid the groundwork. He was one of the first guys, family members, to go to college and be a physician. And we all of our cousins, we wanted to be like him, and be successful like him, and have a steady life. And so I said, I want to get into medicine as well. But how do I merge the two? And so I'll never forget, I was at my senior year in my anatomy and physiology class, and a buddy of mine asked me, what do you want to study? This is our senior year. Are you ready for the next step? I said, yeah, I want to go to college. I don't know what I want yet. And then my buddy actually said, well, what about sports medicine, athletic training? And I said, what, like the guy that tapes our ankles before the games? And he goes, yeah, exactly. And I said, oh, you got to go to school for that? I thought you just like help out, volunteer. He goes, no, you need your certification, you need all these things. So it wasn't until then I said, okay, I started doing some research. You know, does the school here in Brownsville offer? Well, they didn't. And so the closest thing was University of Texas Pan American in Edinburgh. It was about an hour away. And, you know, but growing up in that small, tight, not constraints, but just a really tight-knit family, you know, going an hour away to the university was like something big. Like, oh, man,
right.
You're leaving home. Yeah, I'm only an hour away, guys, you know. So they offered that, and I took it. I got a scholarship, and I started being a student athletic trainer.
Now, what's the training for that? Like, is it a 4-year college degree and then some, or like how does it work?
Well, back then it was a bachelor's degree. It was a 4-year degree with national certification as well as a state licensure through the state of Texas. Mm-hmm. Now it's evolved into a master's degree. Yeah. And so now, you know, you need your additional two years of college to get that, to sit for your national board exam through the NATA. So back then, like I said, I finished in 4, got my certification, got my license in Texas, and I was ready to take on the world. You know, I felt like, okay, I got everything, my license, my certification, my degree, I'm ready to roll. So I went straight to, you know, calling NBA teams, you know, like, all right, hey guys, I'm ready.
Fresh out of college.
Yeah, fresh out of college.
Much respect.
During college, I wasn't even finished yet. I think it was my junior year, I started calling teams because I knew what I wanted to do. And I just had this, you know, work ethic. Hey, I'm ready, guys. You know, even though I was nowhere near ready.
Oh, I respect it.
Yeah, but in my heart, I said, okay, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, I'm curious about that. I did some door-to-door sales before med school.
Yeah.
And the most valuable thing that I learned was when you're knocking doors, and this was home security systems.
Yeah.
First thing was kind of my intention. Like once I learned I'm protecting homes and helping families, I got better at it. And the only thing I learned is if you knock 10 doors, you're going to get a sale. You know, that's, and no matter how it works, like my first sale, I was really lucky. A new couple had moved in and the woman was pregnant and they were looking for a home security system, mm-hmm. right? And the biggest thing I learned there was just volume, right? So if you knock the doors, you're bound to land an opportunity. So I'm almost curious, like how many cold calls did you make before, you know, you got that break?
Oh boy, I was pretty annoying to some of these of these older athletic trainers, and God bless them for their patience. I would call the Dallas Cowboys, the Houston Rockets, the Spurs, the Dallas Mavericks.
Starting in Texas, the triangle.
And then the pipe dream, you know, everyone's pipe dream in the 90s. I would call Chip Schaefer and the Chicago Bulls.
You got to do it.
You know, he's a household name. And they were all great. You know, thank goodness for their patience. They would talk to me on the phone. I talked to the late Ron Culp with the Miami Heat. Wow. I would just speak to everybody, just cold calling and introducing myself over the phone. And before you know it, like I said, Keith Jones with the Houston Rockets, he said, all right, kid, come up for the weekend. I'll show you what all this is about.
That's a dream.
I mean, absolutely.
Coming up from Texas in a small city, and then you're in Houston. Mm. When did you first meet LeBron?
I first met him, for the record, right after he got drafted. I was working summer league for the Cavaliers, and back then I was happy to be in the NBA. I just wanted an opportunity. I called the Cavaliers. This was before they got the lottery pick.
Okay.
This was before, you know, they didn't make the playoffs that year, and so I said, okay, let me call some of these teams. I called Max Benton, who was great. He was the head athletic trainer then, and he's awesome. He gave me a shot. He said, all right, come down for the weekend. We can give you some per diem. We're not going to pay your way. You know, this is all on you, kid. And I said, all right, I'll scrounge up some money and, you know, and I'll head up to Cleveland. And then a week later, after he already said yes, and the GM, Jim Paxson, he said, yeah, come on in, Mike, help us for the summer league. A week later, they got the lottery pick. You know, wow. So I was in before they even got the lottery pick.
Oh, that's crazy.
And so I was just ecstatic that I was going to have an opportunity. Then folks started, you know, folks who knew where I was going, they started calling me, hey, you're going to work with that kid, that high school kid. I said, who? I don't.
The kid from Akron.
Yeah. And it's funny. I'd seen him on the cover of, what was it, the magazine?
Yeah.
ESPN or Sports Illustrated.
It was SI.
He was the chosen one on the cover. I said, oh, that's cool. You know, I get to, you know, maybe meet this kid or whatever. So But shit, I wasn't much older either. I was 24, I think, at the time, and then
It's
it
proof
just
you can start as early as you want.
it just
amazing.
grew from there. Yeah, I always tell people we grew up together. It was his first year in the league. It was my first year in the league, and but for the record, I didn't stay on for his rookie year. I was just with him for the summer league with the team. Then I had to go back to finish my certification at the University of Texas Pan American, and then once I finished, then they hired me. Then they brought me back on as a summer league intern, and then a full seasonal intern.
So showing face initially really got that's amazing. Data shows that most players, they have a steep decline in performance at around the age of 35 or around 40,000 minutes played. LeBron, at 39, he's played the most minutes compared to anybody in NBA history when you count the playoffs, 68,500. Still super explosive. What percent of this is his genetic gifts, and what percent of it is the work you both have put in together?
I think it's we all start off with what the man upstairs has blessed us with. We all start with our genetic gifts. All right, now what we do with that and how we protect it and how we make it last is up to us. Mm-hmm. All right, so we start with his God-given abilities and DNA, but then after that it's been an amazing marriage, if you want to call it, for the last 20 years. He realized early in his career, and he's got some great people around him, even before me. Just his mom, his uncles, Randy, Mav, Rich, all these guys, and he had a great tutor from Nike named Lynn Merritt, and he was around during the whole '90s and the Jordan days and the Bulls days, Scottie Pippen. Ken Griffey Jr., he was around all these guys. So he was able to kind of tutor LeBron and mentor LeBron early on and say, if you really want to do this, you got to take care of your body, whether it's massage and stretching, whatever. And, LeBron kind of shrugged him off. Oh, come on, I'm 19. I don't need to be doing all this stuff. But, Lynn was harping on him. You got to take care of your body. You're special, kid. You got something special about you. You got to take care of your body. So finally LeBron bit, and then I happened to be there. And we got along, and he asked me, I never forget, he asked me after a shoot-around, he goes, Mike, no matter what I tell you, no matter what I say, this is a 19-year-old kid, by the way, he said, I don't want you ever to let me leave the arena without icing my knees.
At 19?
Yeah, exactly. He said,
He's thinking longevity.
Exactly. No matter what I do, I never forget, for the next, however long I'm going to play this game, I don't want you to let me leave the arena without icing my knees. I said, okay, done. And to this day, I don't let him leave the arena without icing his knees.
The rest is history. That's amazing. What are some of the techniques that you've introduced for LeBron that might be new or important to your methodology now?
You can name everything under the sun, from yoga to Pilates to extensive core work and postural work, breathing techniques, from a recovery standpoint, on off days. It might be off days from basketball, but it's not off days from everybody. It's vital that every day he's doing something. So some of the stuff that we do is, now we do a ton of soft tissue work. And we've been lucky and blessed to have some really, really great massage therapists that we work with throughout our journey, mm-hmm. It's been a ton of soft tissue work, cryotherapy, infrared sauna. It's training in the steam room. It's field work. It's hydro works. It's stuff in the pool. It's just everything under the sun. And like I said, we're doing a ton of Pilates, a ton of yoga work, breathing work. It's just, you name it.
I love it right now. Pilates will kick your butt.
Oh yeah.
First time I did Pilates, I was pleasantly surprised because it wasn't easy. So it's Game 1 of the NBA Finals, 2014. The Heat are playing the Spurs. LeBron misses the final 4 minutes of this game, and it was due to cramping.
Yeah.
Now, what was the root cause analysis, and what did you guys change to prevent that in the future?
Well, that was really an extreme case, man.
Right.
I don't know if you recall, for some reason the I don't want to blame it just on this, but the air conditioner broke at the AT&T Center. I'll never forget. And so someone like LJ, who's more who's really muscularly dense, mm-hmm. Will burn way more calories than the layperson, and he was just giving it his all. I think we were down Game 1, and he had just like sparked this comeback, and he was just really, really pushing to an extreme level, and his body just it was just suffered a bout of dehydration, and so there we were, facing not only a very talented Spurs team, but also behind the 8 ball, because he just wasn't. His body was breaking down right before our eyes, and there was at that point there's not really much you can do.
Right.
So we really went back to the drawing board and said, okay, what are we missing? And so we started doing a lot more integrated sweat testing to kind of see what his body was lacking,
cool.
at high levels. And so we really dialed in our sodium intake, our glucose intake, et cetera, beforehand. So now it was just all preloading instead of waiting for game day. So now every day, since then, and we never want a scenario like that again. Every day we work on it. And in my book, I'll talk about the importance of hydration. And
you do.
And there you have it.
Yeah. What is this sweat testing? How does it work exactly?
Well, it's a monitor that you wear on your forearm, and you go through a regular workout, a regular practice, et cetera. You take the monitor off and you spin it and analyze it, and it'll tell you how much sodium that you're actually burning,
cool.
and some of the electrolytes that you're burning or utilizing during heavy bouts of exercise.
And it
so
checks your temperature and stuff as well.
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. Very cool. You mentioned in the book, LeBron, he doesn't train like he used to at 25 years old.
Correct.
What changed? And what did you guys kind of develop after that time?
Well, I think early on in an athlete's career, especially with someone as massive as LJ is, again, he's very muscularly dense. And so all that is great early in your career because you're establishing yourself. You want to be dominant, and you're making a name for yourself, and you're really doing. You're working hard to get your name out there, to prove that you belong, you're MVP, et cetera. But then if you want to do this at the highest level, like he's been doing it for a long period of time, well, you kind of have to start to trim down a little. Okay, not just in weight, but in some of the excess stuff that you're doing. And so our training has changed and evolved in order for him to continue to play at a high level. So now we focus on mobility, core work and strength, strength and endurance, and just keeping his weight at he's not as heavy as he was when he first came to the league.
I meant to ask that. I just remember I'm a huge Kobe fan. I remember at 30, Kobe was like, I'm dropping weight.
Yeah.
I just want to put less stress on my joints. Did LeBron did he cut some weight around 30?
We toyed around with different different fads. And we laugh about it now, but at the time I wasn't laughing. After we left the Miami Heat in 14, I think it was 14, he tried this paleo diet for his summer. And he looked, he looked great if he wanted to be a swimsuit model, but if he wanted to be functional on the court, we had to get, no more paleo.
Right.
He did it for the summer, and then he came in the training camp, but then he started having a lot more knee pain, a lot more back pain. His body just wasn't responding; it wasn't bouncing back as efficiently as it used to. When he was just eating regular for him. And so we said, okay, Bron, no more of this paleo stuff. I mean, you look great, God bless you, but you don't make a living on the cover of GQ or SI. You make a living on the hardwood.
I hear that.
Yeah.
No, that makes sense. You actually mentioned in your book, eat for performance.
Yes.
And don't starve yourself for a six-pack. This is really, really important. I have some friends who are physicians, and they're doing bodybuilding competitions, and the last week of those competitions, they'll starve themselves, and sure, they'll look pretty good the day of. But when we think about longevity, the way that you discuss it in your book, just eating for performance, and one of the biggest things that I like that I think you teach all of your athletes is to listen to their own body. And to kind of develop this system before they start activity, at the end of activity, they're always checking in on their interoception, kind of what their signals are in their body and what their body's telling them, and then kind of adjusting on the fly.
Yeah, it's more about functionality.
I agree with that.
than just the aesthetics. There's a time and a place, right? There's a time and a place.
What goes up must come down. One of the things I noticed about LeBron, obviously, when he was young, first of all, I've never seen someone jump as high as he could.
Yeah.
Just his head was above the rim like half the time. But more importantly, the way he was landing, I almost feel like he was very skilled at landing in a way that at least took some load off of his joints. And even when he's driving the ball, you're always worried that he's going to step on a player's foot and, that ankle, he's going to hurt something. But, he's been so good about it. And it's almost like he has awareness of it while he's doing it. Did you guys work on this? Have you taught him things? Like, how does that happen?
I think initially all that came from him playing football. He has tremendous footwork. Yeah, he was a receiver, so he knew he knew as soon as he went up to catch the ball, he was about to get hit.
Right.
He knew he was was the biggest target on the field. So his proprioception is amazing because he had to guard himself and prepare himself for impact. So he knows how and when to land. And if he does land in a compromising position, meaning his foot and ankle, then he knows how to, we call it, escape it or get away from it quickly to where it doesn't roll, to where his foot and ankle don't roll all the way. We've had some bad ankle sprains. I see, 21 years, come on.
Right,
you're going to have an ankle sprain.
It's going to happen.
Bumps and bruises. But I think initially it all came from him playing football. And I really prepared him, with amazing proprioception and balance.
What are some things maybe younger athletes do to foster that type of awareness? Is there anything you would teach?
Gosh, there's so much things now. I would really integrate single leg hopping, a bunch of eccentric work. Maybe do different exercises, hand-eye coordination. Like the Blaze Pod, pods that are out there. WAF has a great product out. Really challenges your core and your proprioception. Like I said, single leg bounding, balance, jumps, all that kind of stuff.
Good to know, and I'm sure you tell them don't land flat-footed. That's
no, yeah, exactly. Now we do, the secret side, we do a little trampoline work.
Cool.
To this day.
What's that look like?
Eyes closed, one eye open, throwing different, like lacrosse balls at him, where he's got to catch, single leg hops, and the hops are important, but also the landing.
Right.
The landing is essential. As you get older, we always say, your brakes are the first thing they give out.
Right.
Exactly. In an older car like he's driving. So so we work a lot on our eccentrics, on our stopping, on our braking system.
How early did you guys start on that? Being a huge Kobe fan, he was all gas, no brakes for a long time before Grover got up in there and he was like, let's work on the things that you're mentioning, right? So was LeBron doing this from the start?
I think once we went to Miami, so right around 2011, 2012, we started integrating quick start stops. In different directions, blindfolding him.
That's cool.
Just doing different hand-eye coordination with lights, and again, just a lot of eccentric work.
Yeah, that stuff strengthens your proprioception.
Absolutely.
Very cool to think about from a performance standpoint. That's something that you guys work on.
Absolutely. The bench press and the squats. That's still important, but now it's all the supplemental things that you do in between the bench press and the squat and the deadlifts and all that. It's all these little things, and we call them the difference makers. It's all these fine tuning exercises that you have to do to maintain if you want to continue doing this for a while.
And that actually goes right into my next question. Weight training, strength training. How often does someone like LeBron strength train now compared to back in the day? Very curious about that. Like, how's that kind of progress and what's it look like now?
Well, now we actually, it's ingrained in our routine now. Every game day, except for back-to-backs.
Right.
I'll let that secret out. Except for back-to-backs. We're not in the weight room. We're doing more of a recovery and core work before games on back-to-backs. But on game days, it's again, it's ingrained in our routine. He's the first one in at the arena early, before anyone else gets there. Maybe the stadium workers are there, popping popcorn or whatever. But it's them and it's us. And we're in the weight room and we're jamming out. I'm sure everyone's seen the videos of him in the weight room enjoying, having fun and lifting. But it's not what we used to do, when he was 22, 23 years old. It's a lot more core and mobility and just endurance work. and the sessions aren't as long as you can imagine on a game day. You know, my job is not to wear him out. It's just to prepare him, you know, to be the best athlete out there.
One of the bigger things with MJ against Detroit, he just couldn't overcome them. They were beating him up, and then he started getting in the weight room. Yeah. And there was all this talk about, listen, you lift too much, you're going to have to adjust your jump shot. And how does even adjusting your jump shot work?
Well, for him, it's funny you mentioned that. That's part of our routine. After the weight room, we go straight onto the court.
Yeah, I remember doing that, but man, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, that jump shot does not feel or look the same.
Yeah.
So.
Like his first one or two shots are, you know, they might look a little crazy, but you know, he's quick to adjust, and his body now is so in tune. His body now is you know, it's used to that. It's used to that cadence now. That's cool. So where he can lift. And you're smart about what you're doing in the weight room. You know, you're not killing him on the bench press or anything like that. You know, because after all, he does have a game to play.
Absolutely.
You know, in a few hours after that.
That's really helpful. I think a lot of people are going to find that useful.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about your 27 move mobility and core stabilization program that you discuss in the book? And I did it this morning for the first time.
Oh, nice.
Really, really important.
You know, come up with a routine for LJ initially, obviously, for LJ that we can do on an off day, on a back-to-back.
Smart.
To where we're not lifting, you know, we don't travel with a Pilates unit, we don't travel with all these different things. We want to be efficient. And so he and I came up with it together. You know, he said, Mike, I really, you know, feel really good after these type of exercises, especially before a game or before activity. And heck, sometimes we can do some of these after games just to kind of help flush the system. And so it was something that we came up with together that said, okay, again, how can we focus on the foundation, on your core, but still, and then start to integrate movement and mobility with it. And I said, you know, gosh, you know, this is I was very happy with it, very happy with the results. And I said, man, I can really. And then other athletes started asking me about what we were doing. Other coaches asking me, other staff members, you know, gosh, that looks like something. Yeah, even though LeBron James is doing it, that looks like something I could do. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You know, this is for everybody and for anybody. You know, and so the goal for me was, okay, I want to make something that everyone can do. That you don't have to be LeBron James or Myles Garrett, you know, to do something like this. You can be mom and dad, and you can still do it and still get a good benefit from it.
I can see what you're doing here where you work on the foundation, and it's very low impact. So even my older adults, I'm talking about 65 and up.
Exactly.
This is such good work because it really takes care of the entire foundation, at least in my experience. Yeah. And it's something that even an older adult can perform pretty safely. Obviously discuss with your primary physician before you do these things, but it was something so low impact that it almost seems like you could do it every day and it would only allow you to perform better no matter what you do.
I think, Doc, you did an amazing job of describing it. That was my goal. That was my intent.
My hope is that they start teaching either like this specific program or something similar, like maybe even in physical education early in schools.
Yes.
In my experience, the patients that end up being healthiest, they've been previous athletes, so they know what it's like to be conditioned.
Yes.
And then they have an awareness of being deconditioned, right? And they're a little bit more aware of their range of motion and their mobility. I think one of the things we could do better in this country is definitely teaching that to the younger generations as early as possible. So hopefully those things kind of stick around because every now and then I'll get someone who hasn't done any of that stuff and they're like 66, 67 now, and man, their hamstrings are tight.
Yeah.
And they're still, you could build muscle even at 90.
That was our goal. It's just to create something that, again, it can either be a really good starting point for someone, or it can just be integrated into what you're already doing, even as a pro athlete, as a high performer. Mm-hmm.
In the book, you discuss first Tim Grover and how he was pivotal in your growth. How did you two first cross paths, and what's the most important thing that you learned from him and MJ together?
I think the most important thing I learned from Tim was how to handle yourself around someone as special as MJ and someone as special as LJ. How to conduct yourself around them. Mm-hmm. Follow the energy that they're bringing in. Every day they're going to bring in a different type of energy. But the end result is always going to be work and work, focus, and just accomplishing a goal. Mm-hmm. So whether MJ walks in the door or LJ or a guy like Myles Garrett now that we've been working with, they're going to come in with a certain energy, and you have to be consistent with your energy as well. So you have to match them, and some days they might not have the energy that you're looking for. So you have to bring it.
Right.
Okay, you have to bring it. You have to inspire them, even if it's just little nuances that you do. With LeBron, I'm notorious for I bring in levity to a lot of conversation. I bring in levity to our weight room sessions, but that's just really feeding off of him. Is if I see him, he's a little off that day, he's really concerned about something off the court or on the court or whatever, then I kind of respect them. I give him that respect. But it's just really how you integrate yourself and your energy with their energy.
It makes sense, because that's something that I think Grover does really well, integrating that energy. Like, one of the things you mentioned in the book kind of reminded me of that. It's like sometimes LeBron might have an off day, and he might be a little bit more like angry or upset, and you could tell because you've worked together like every day for 20 years. You kind of said you push him more on those days, and that was something that you said that people who are trying to take on this program, you might want to see the days that you're the most stressed. Like, if you could pull something off that day where you're performing at your highest, it builds your resilience, and it kind of allows you to be able to bring that tenacity to days where it might be a little bit easier.
Yes, absolutely. The one thing you're always in control of is yourself and your emotions and your what you want to get out of that day. You could be having a crazy work day, nothing's going right, but at the end of the day, you're in control.
I agree with that. Control what you can control, and let go of that which you can't. That's correct. I try to work on that with my meditations a lot. Say after a game, what kind of protein shake is LeBron having? Plant-based? Is it whey?
We started with traditional whey protein, back in the day, but then we noticed a little bit of gut issues. And so I switched over to a plant-based protein, and we've been having that ever since, I believe, since we went back to the Cavaliers. And he's not vegan, he's not 100% plant-based, but he does eat very, 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 very clean.
So I've definitely noticed that too, where whey is animal protein, sometimes from milk. It could be from different things, causes that bloating, because I definitely experienced it myself. I've switched over to a plant-based protein now, and I feel a little bit better after that.
Better,
yeah, and it seems like that's kind of well-known now, or well established, but I don't know any specific evidence. Kind of curious if you...
Yeah, and to just taking a guy like LeBron or a guy like Myles, they're exuding so much energy out there on the field or on the court that the first thing that they ingest, you have to start light.
Yeah.
You have to start light, because you are your body's in this kind of shock, and it's recovery. It's hungry for calories, but at the same time, it's going 100 miles an hour. It's still, I see him in the locker room after the game, and his body is still steaming, from playing 40 minutes or whatever it is. And so, I start light with that. He's going to have a regular dinner, when he gets home, when he goes back to his hotel room, he's going to have a nice meal. And so I'm not going to, bog him down with this huge, whey protein shake or whatever. Some people might disagree, might argue. That's fine. This is just what works for us.
I hear that. One of the things that we do with frail older adults, so muscle mass is important in all ages, especially in the older adults. There's a lot of evidence where if you have lower muscle mass as you age, your mortality rate is far higher. Yeah. So when someone becomes frail, trying to maintain their muscle mass becomes important. And at that point right now, it's probably around like 1 gram per kilogram up to like maybe 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram. I'm not sure if you get too much into the details like that with like LeBron or with Myles Garrett. Is there something that you recommend for them in terms of how many grams of protein they should get in a day?
Every body type is different, but I think, you can't argue with the research. Keeping it consistent with those numbers is perfectly fine.
I did see on your Instagram there was a video of Myles Garrett working out with LeBron.
Yeah.
Pretty recently, I think it was here in Los Angeles. In regards to diet, injury prevention, how do you approach these two similarly, and like how do you approach them differently?
The similar approach is peeling back the onion and starting with their core, core endurance, starting with our mobility program. We all start with the foundation. If you build a house, if you build this incredible, absolute magnificent structure, if the foundation is not set, then it's all going to come down. It's all going to crumble. So that's where we are similar. Again, core endurance and functionality of movement. Now, different, obviously, they're two different beasts. They're one plays, balls out on Sunday and gives everything he has. The other one plays, 5 times a week,
right?
With the same intensity and tenacity. And so, our training will be different. With Myles, it's much more about traditional strength, but we are implementing more core and endurance work. And with LJ, it's now it's functional strength and mobility as well.
Coolest thing there is that's important for all human beings.
Absolutely.
It's kind of cool that foundation, whether you're an elite athlete or a young athlete or just anybody, any age, that seems to be kind of the foundation that it's essential, So I'm grateful that we're preaching that.
Absolutely. And a quick note here to Mr. Brian Buck over in Dallas, who helps me with Myles, does most of his strength and conditioning during the off season. We've collaborated well for about 2 years now, so shout out to Brian.
That's awesome. What's your diet like today?
My diet is, it's funny you asked. I just did a 2-day fast.
Oh, nice.
I just did a 2-day fast. But on days that I'm not fasting, it's pretty light. It's pretty light. I was vegan for about 8 years.
Wow.
And felt great, and no complaints at all. I was getting my protein. I'm still here.
Right.
I didn't wilter away. So there's that misconception. All you eat is dandelion. I got a buddy of mine. All you eat is dandelions. Well, no. Now I have a regular diet. I'm not 100% vegan, but at home with my wife and kids, we do practice, I guess, 80 to 90% plant-based lifestyle.
That's what the evidence kind of points to. And one thing you mentioned in your book too, it's more about eating patterns than to get caught up into, this is the diet that I'm choosing.
Yeah.
And if you're going to choose a eating pattern, 80 to 90% plant-based whole foods. And then, of course, that next 10%, if you have meat, if you want to, that's fine. Yeah. That's kind of cool that you've kind of got to that. Now, before you were a vegan for 8 years, what was your diet like before that?
It was traditional. I ate pretty much everything from pastas to animal proteins to you name it, seafood, etc.
Any foods that you try to keep like yourself and your athletes away from altogether?
Gosh, I mean, just everything that we all know. The extra fried foods and fast food,
ultra processed foods.
Yes, the sugary snacks. Just stay away from those. I do mention in the book though. There's a time and a place. Sometimes you need a little something. You need those sour gummy bears or whatever it is. Every now and then, and that's fine. And there's nothing wrong with that. Every now and then, just don't make a habit of it.
For sure. Yeah, same thing with any of my patients. Not a fan of like elimination diets just because they're not sustainable.
Correct.
And the best thing is if you enjoy something, like even make a time and place for it and don't go overboard with it.
Yes.
Now, are you okay with like caffeine use? What's your thoughts about like pre-workout caffeine?
Personally, I like it. I'm not sensitive to caffeine. I'll have a cup of coffee. For a while, I gave up coffee, and I was feeling okay. Now I'm back on it, and I feel fine. I don't necessarily have to have a cup of coffee every morning, but when you have kids, when I go home for the summer,
yes,
a little cup of coffee in the morning
helps.
Yeah, will help, as you will find out soon.
Yes,
yeah, a little caffeine is fine for guys like LJ. He doesn't tolerate caffeine well, so we stay away from caffeine. And, we just stick to all natural stuff.
Cool. My next question is going to be thoughts about intermittent fasting. And you kind of mentioned that you just went on like a 2-day fast. Is that a water fast? Okay. So how did you feel?
Irritable. Just ask my wife and kids. I said, Dad, are you going to eat soon?
Right.
But it was a mental challenge for me.
Yeah.
And if I can physically challenge myself, mentally challenge myself, without breaking down. And I was still doing everything. I wasn't just laying on the couch. I was still, which I hate sitting and just doing nothing. I got to be active.
Same.
And so I was just doing regular workouts. I was doing mobility stuff. I was being active with the kids, etc. Going to the park and just living life normal, and just really wanted to challenge myself for 2 days. No eating, just drinking water.
I do have some experience in fasting, and I noticed like the first 3 days of fasting, like you feel irritable, you feel pretty crappy.
Yeah.
But after that, man, you have this like clarity, and like you're able to kind of do everything. That was the biggest shock for me, is your body can, and you mentioned this in the book, your body can do a lot more than you think it's capable of.
Absolutely, guys. Yeah, absolutely.
So kind of curious about what got you into that space of fasting. Do your athletes intermittent fast?
Yeah, so during the summertime or during their respective off seasons, I do encourage intermittent fasting. And so one, I mean, the basic one is just to keep their weight down. Just to keep their weight under control, because you're not burning the calories that you're used to. During the season, you're not on an airplane every other night, till 2 or 3 in the morning. You're not, playing 40 minutes a night, et cetera, or you're not playing on the field every Sunday. So that's one way to kind of keep your weight in check a little, but also just challenging yourself from a mental standpoint, from a mental perspective. Is, again, like I said in the book, your body can do way more than you give it credit for. So from a mental standpoint, I love doing that. Intermittent fasting is beneficial. I do it. I practice it actually most days.
Same.
Is what I do. I wait to. I got about another hour before I get my first meal. So but it's worked out. It's worked out for me. It's worked out for some of my clients, and I praise it.
Yeah, no. Did you know that? So fasting is one of the few things that's scientifically proven to prolong life. And it's kind of funny how this was discovered. It was during World War II. They were kind of trying to figure out different things on rats, and this started as rat studies, and they were starving some of the rats. I don't know specifically why they were starving these rats, but one thing that they started noticing is the rats that had been fasting or starving, they ended up outliving the other rats. So it's kind of like a secondary thing. They didn't, like, this wasn't their main intention, but then they started discovering, so every time we eat, our cells have to divide a little bit more. Your body has to basically use more energy to be able to digest that food.
Correct.
When you shut that stuff off, you kind of preserve those reserves and your cells don't divide as much. When we talk about a cell dividing, your telomeres get a little bit shorter. What they notice is your telomeres, they don't shorten as much when you fast. I remember when I read that, I was kind of mind blown.
And I tell you what, you are building resiliency.
Exactly.
You are building resiliency. Your body and mind are both building resiliency for the long haul.
That's the biggest thing too. I would definitely say the mental aspect. First, just being mindful of what you're putting into your body, and then realizing how much your body can sustain itself off of nothing, and the internal struggle with that. It definitely builds a different type of resilience. In the book, you mentioned you work with some of the most determined people in the world, and that rest and recovery allows these elite athletes to accomplish even more over time. What does that mean, and what does that look like?
So if you're, like some of these high performers, these athletes, and working with Usher as well, he's, I was amazed at how he's able to function at a high level when he performs with his day-to-day. His day-to-day schedule is just off the charts. I mean, it's prep, it's rehearsal, it's vocal training still. Which is very, very taxing on the body, because you have to be on, and at your highest peak for, several hours of voice training, and you have to be focused in and dialed in, and then obviously the physical part, the dancing,
wild dancing,
crazy. I mean, and he gives it all, and he's I've learned so much just being around him the last couple of years, and watching him train and training him and watching him rehearse and perform, but one thing that he was lacking, I guess, was his recovery. And I said, okay, well, how are you able to do this? Okay, but you're going to burn yourself out. Well, Mike, this is all I know. I just push at a high level all the time. But then, okay, now the knee pain starts. Now the foot pain starts. Now the low back and the hip starts. I said, all right, you're not the spring chicken you were when you were 19, 20. Same with LJ. Now we have to alter what we're doing. And so you can still function at a high level, but you have to make time to make you have to make time in your day for off time.
That part.
All right, and you have to make off time, to where your phone is under control, to where no one's around you, or just just the people that you really, really want around you, which is, hopefully it's just 2 or 3.
Exactly.
And just you need to clear your mind, clear your head, and what are you doing for your body? From again, mobility to stretching to cold baths, cold tubs, etc. Stretching, massage, eating right, and sleeping.
Yeah.
Number
sleep.
1, guys, is just sleeping. He's he'll do, and Usher is my example right now. He'll do a great show for 2 hours, and he'll be sweating like crazy and just really taxing his body. But then he has commitments. He has commitments. He's got meet and greets after the show. He's got commitments after the show where he's got from photo shoots to video shoots to like I said, meet and greet events, etc. To where he's up till 2 a.m, etc. Just being around for his after show commitments. And so what does that do to the body? That just breaks down. So we started a kind of a recovery routine where, and I always harp on it: sleep. You got to sleep. You got to sleep. And
The 8 hours, that's a tough one.
That's a tough one for someone like him. Yeah.
Let's pretend it's the first hour after completing back-to-back games
Yeah.
for LeBron. What are the triaging questions you're asking him after the game?
After the games, after a back-to-back, it always starts with I take a general diagnostic questionnaire, a verbal questionnaire. I said, "What's up? How we doing?" If he has a knee issue, a hip issue, whatever, a shoulder issue, okay, how's that? How's the back? How's this? How's it responding? And then I always take my own personal. I'm there, the best seat in the house. For every one of his games, so I can see if his hips are a little off, or if
You're
his
like
knees
behind
bothering
him.
Or 99% of the time, I'm sitting right behind him.
Right.
And
I saw that on one of the games very recently, and I was just telling my wife, I was like, yo, that's Mike right there.
Yeah.
"Oh."
Yeah, the guy right there. Yeah, the guy right sitting right behind him. And even on during timeouts, it's interesting. This year we started doing something where I stand right next to him during timeouts, and I hand him his hydration.
I saw that.
Whether it be a sports drink or just plain water with some electrolytes. I physically have to stand there and hand it to him, because a guy like him, he's so tuned in that he will forget to hydrate.
Right.
He'll forget to drink. So I got to hand him in front of him. Oh, yeah. Because he's talking to coach. He's talking to coach. He's talking to the players. He's a coach on the court.
Right.
And so when he comes on for timeouts, he's discussing what went wrong, what went right, et cetera. So he's busy doing this and coaching his teammates and talking to the head coach that he forgets to hydrate. So you forget to hydrate 2 or 3 timeouts in a row.
Yeah.
Well, your performance is going to go down.
That's true.
And so now I started standing next to him to make sure that I get his fluids in him.
That makes sense. You kind of mentioned that now, even around the third quarter, you're already starting some type of recovery process even before the game ends.
Mm-hmm.
What does that look like? Like, what do you guys usually do?
Well, either I uptake his hydration, or I give him something with a little more glucose to finish up the game, especially if I feel like this could go into overtime.
Right.
I need to preload him now. And so and if not, okay, if it doesn't, okay, cool, then he'll be fine. He'll be fine after the game.
And what recovery optimization tools do you use in addition to those, like maybe after the game?
Right after the game, it's cryotherapy. It's cryotherapy just to cool down his core temperature, and then just to cool down, ice down his joints, his low back, etc. We use foot bath after every game. That's where we submerges both feet in ice cold water in a little bucket. So that's after every game. Sometimes we do some soft tissue, some stretching afterwards if we have time.
Right.
And then obviously nutrition. We give him that small shake to kind of ease his tummy, get something in him right after he plays. Again, because I know he's going to go out and have a nice dinner, either at home or wherever.
Probably with some wine.
Maybe. Some recovery wine, I call it.
Yeah, I love it. We mentioned sleep a little bit. Why is sleep important, and what are some tools that you might use to help your athletes get better sleep?
Sleep is vital in recovery because the body repairs itself and heals itself while you can achieve REM sleep. That's when the body heals itself. So although it's not fancy, it's something that we've been doing since kids. Parents always told you, okay, go take a nap. It's not just because they want you out of their hair, but it's good for your development. Take a little nap every now and then. And I can tell you, some of these guys, these high elite performers, they all take a little nap. They'll take a nap on game day. I know, our schedule on game day is revolved around his nap. If he doesn't get his nap, then his productivity kind of falls, because think about it. Your day starts. I mean, yeah, you have shoot around, you have all these things, but your career, your day, your longevity, your legacy, if you're LJ, is determined by what you do at nighttime, from 7 p.m. to a little 10:30 at night. So you have to function at the highest level at night, while everyone else's day is pretty much everyone else is shutting down for the day.
Yeah,
you're on television, and you have to perform with the same with all these with the rest of the NBA guys. These guys had to perform at 7 p.m. at 8 p.m. At their highest, and so a nap is vital if you're going to do that.
Yeah,
I'm giving away all the secrets now.
We appreciate this a lot.
Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. And, they're discovering sleep is a lot fancier than we originally thought. There's been a discovery of this glymphatic system, which is like a lymphatic system of the brain. And studies about Alzheimer's and dementia, what they're realizing is people who get better sleep, this glymphatic system, it actually washes the brain, clears it of its toxins when you're sleeping.
Yeah.
And if you don't get enough sleep and you've been chronically sleep deprived, over time that can increase your risk of developing Alzheimer's, dementia. There's a million different ways to talk about sleep and why it's important. There's one thing that I learned. It's a lifestyle for you, like how you teach your athletes. It's about every second of every day. And it makes sense that the best performers in the world, that's the way they're going to see it.
One thing I kind of, as being a grinder, a hard worker, in any field, in any profession, people always say, "Oh, I'll sleep when I'm dead."
Right.
And that's true. But I'm trying to scave off death. Okay.
Yes. You mentioned legacy. And I remember I started thinking about that more and more over the last few years. And when you start thinking about a legacy, you think of longevity. Like you need that longevity to be able to create something that you desire to create. Now, in terms of ice, we talked about cryotherapy. How often do you guys use like a hyperbaric chamber? I remember you mentioning even like the Kelvy Pro, kind of the electronic icing and stuff.
Yes,
is that still a thing?
That's still part of our recovery. If I can't be there at the house to ice him down, or I can't be in different things, and he's got a Kelvy at the house. He's got different things at the house, like the Hyperice, the Normatec recovery boots. Those are amazing. I'm sure on his social media you see him with those Normatec leg sleeves.
Yeah, I got patients coming to me asking me about them
every
too.
day.
Yeah,
almost every day, and that's just part of our routine now. Is to use some of that Hyperice technology.
What are other recovery or sleep tools that the best athletes use that you typically recommend?
There's one in particular, and I'm wearing it now. It's called the Whoop, and the Whoop I absolutely love, because of it's like having a little coach, on your wrist and on your phone. It'll remind you, hey, it's time to go to bed. Or if you want to perform optimally tomorrow, then you should be in bed by 7:30 or whatever it is.
Oh, that's cool.
It'll coach you through what you need to perform. It's not just it doesn't count steps. It's not a pedometer.
Right.
It doesn't say, okay, you got 10,000 steps today. No, it tells you if you want to perform at your highest level tomorrow, then you should be in bed by 8 o'clock or whatever, in order to maximize your day for tomorrow.
I might check that out.
Yeah.
I actually listened to that podcast that you did maybe in 19 or something, the Whoop.
Yeah.
Kind of looked into it, but that sounds kind of cool.
I love it. It's like having a personal coach.
Our last portion of this podcast, it's fan questions. First question, is it true that Michael Jordan wrote you a letter of recommendation?
Yeah, yes, it's true.
And how did that end up happening?
It was when I was working with Tim Grover, and truth be told, I only worked with Tim and Mike for 2 weeks for one summer, and then I came back the following summer for another 2 weeks. So in that short time, I learned a lot, obviously, and so I started. Tim gave me the opportunity. He goes, Mike, if MJ needs something, and I'm busy with my guys as well, if you need something, go ahead. He put my feet to the fire, and so MJ asked me for a stretch one day, out of the blue before the pickup game. And I stretched him. He liked some of the stretches that I was doing. He goes, all right, cool. And then we're walking out of the gym, and I said, are you coming back to the gym tomorrow? He said, maybe. He goes, why? I said, I think you could benefit from another stretch, you know. And he said, okay, meet me in my office downtown Chicago, and we'll stretch there. So we stretched, you know, went over, it was fine, and just kept doing that, you know, stretching them. And so when I was done after my 2 summers, you know, 2 weeks and 2 weeks, and I decided, okay, now I need to start applying for NBA jobs.
Yeah.
I said, well, it's not going to hurt to ask. And so I met his assistant at that time there in his office, and we got along great, you know, just small talk. So I called her up. I said, do you think he could write me a letter of recommendation? And she said, well, I can ask, but yeah, it's kind of a tall ask. I said, okay. So I said, how about this? How about I can send you what
like
I
a
would,
template.
yeah, like a template.
This is what we do in med school too.
Of what he would, if he's okay with it, and then he can add and subtract and kind of tweak it briefly, and then just sign, put on letterhead.
Yes.
And 2 weeks later, you know, I'm in Brownsville, and I get a letter from Jump Incorporated.
Jump Incorporated.
Man,
that
was
cool.
I don't know if MJ still has that, but it was Jump Incorporated. That was his name of his company. And sure enough, letterhead, Jump Incorporated. And he actually took time and tweaked some of the letter, and he signed it. And gosh, I was on cloud nine.
That's badass.
Michael Jordan wrote me a letter of recommendation. That I'll never forget that.
An important lesson, like the worst thing you'll hear is no.
Yeah.
Know? So imagine you don't do that.
Now's not the time. You know. Yeah, exactly.
I did see a video. Usher said that his back gave out like right before the Super Bowl, and he called you. So what happened there?
He said that?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good. It's on record now.
It is.
Yeah. So we have a game Friday night in L.A., and then LeBron says, "You want to go to Vegas, you know, to see the family? Just not you want to go to the game. Just want to go to Vegas because I have the family there." So I hitched a ride with LJ on Saturday, and I was with the family all day, which is great. Bike riding, doing everything. And I didn't get a call from Usher. This is the day before the Super Bowl. I said, okay, he's probably be cool. He's got everything under
Doing
control.
his thing.
So Sunday, I'm getting ready. Again, bike riding with the kids, enjoying the Sunday day off. And about kickoff is at 3:30 Pacific time. So I get a call around 2 o'clock and says, hey, this is such and such from, I'm with Usher. I said, okay. Mind you, the Super Bowl is at 3:30. And it's about 2:15 now. I said, yeah. He goes, Usher really would like if you would come to the game and be with him and be around. I said, okay. I look at my wife and, you know, meanwhile, we're getting the stuff ready for the house. You know, we got, you know, chips and dip and everything. You know, we got the whole Super Bowl spread out, you know, and we got the game, you know, all the pregame stuff. And I said, she looks at me and she goes, okay. You know, it's the Super Bowl and it's Usher.
It's Usher.
Do what you got to do. What you got to do. You know, but you guys have been together the last couple of years. I said okay. So I hitch a ride to downtown. By that time it's 3 o'clock, and I walk into his green room, and he says nothing. He just points to his back. He says, "Come on." He just, "Hey, Mike, how you doing?" No, it's just straight to work, and we start, you know, doing breath work. We started doing some decompressive exercises, and just really calming him down, because I can't imagine the pressure that he was under that day to perform in front of the world. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're in Las Vegas, we're on the field, we're on the Super Bowl, but he is performing in front of the world,
right.
And the whole world is waiting to see you.
Yeah.
All right, and so you better deliver.
He delivered.
And he delivered.
Thank
amazing.
you, Mike.
We did. Oh, come on.
Like, thank you for allowing me.
Yeah. He was, I saw him smile after we were done exercising and moving, and he was doing his. It was like being at a Game 7 for me. This is our Game 7. This is Usher's Game 7. This Super Bowl. This is for all the marbles.
That's
amazing. You do well here, and you're immortal.
Right.
And he performed. He did amazing. He's, like I said, one of the greatest performers I've ever seen.
Hands down.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
It's very, very cool. Last question is, what's the best advice that you ever received?
Ooh, gosh, I've been blessed to have so much, to have so many mentors that I'd be remiss if it was just one. The best advice is just, you know what, I'll keep it simple. Just work hard. That's it. And stay true. Work hard. Stay true to your journey, to your focus. That's it.
I love it.
That's it.
Mike, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
This is the book, Game Plan. Check this out.
There
Great
it is.
read. Highly recommend. All ages, too. Incredible piece of work. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.